Guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm really excited for today's video because it's a collab video, as you can also see from the title, with my friend Rina from RinaReviews. Rina is like my type of YouTuber. She loves indie makeup, she reviews indie makeup, she's the sweetest, and she always has such spot-on remarks when it comes to product reviews, and I absolutely love watching her channel. And recently I reached out to her and I wanted to do a collab because she's one of my favorite people to watch. So I reached out to her to do a little collab video, and I figured that the most appropriate thing for the two of us to do together would be something with indie eyeshadows, because we both love and collect indie eyeshadows. And when I talk about indie companies and indie eyeshadows in this video, by the way, I just want to open like a little side note here. We are not talking about brands like Luxie, Divina, Juvia's Place, even people call even Those of Colors indie companies. I am talking about these smaller, underrated, not very mentioned and popular on YouTube, Instagram and other social media indie makeup companies. A lot of you who watch my channel more regularly are probably familiar with both Rina and the indie companies I'm going to talk about, but if you're new to my channel or to indie makeup generally speaking, there have been indie companies around for a really long time, and a lot of them remained very much under the radar of everyone. And I feel like one of the reasons for that is, compared to all these other brands that I mentioned, these indie brands only or mostly offer products in a loose form, like little eyeshadows that come in a pot like this. So they come in a loose form, and I feel like a lot of people are quite intimidated by these types of eyeshadows and they tend to stay away, which is a shame, because I feel like the indie, like the OG indie companies, is where the most interesting makeup originated from. A couple of years ago there were no metallic foiled duochrome eyeshadows, there was indie companies. If you wanted to get these types of eyeshadows, you would have to resort to indie companies, which is why I know a lot of these companies. I've loved them for years, I've collected them for years, and so has Rina. So what we're going to do today is something a little bit different, because we're going to talk about our top 10 most favorite indie eyeshadows. More underrated indie makeup companies are going to take the spotlight. I'm not going to talk about any of my like Luxie or Divina favorites. I can save that for another video. But a little twist we're going to put on this video is we're also going to talk about 5 random things about working as a researcher. I've been getting some comments and questions about life as a researcher, and I've mentioned it a couple of times on my channel. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, if you don't know me and you haven't followed my channel or my blog for a really long time, I have a PhD in biomedical sciences and I currently work as a postdoctoral researcher. So my field of work and expertise is experimental molecular biology. And I think the interesting thing about doing this together with Rina is that she can provide you with a different perspective, because she studies something more on the social sciences. She's doing a PhD in history, so the 5 random facts she's going to give you in life as a researcher are probably going to be quite different from mine. But I'm actually quite interested how this is going to turn out, because maybe a lot of these overlap. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm really going to try to stick to 10 absolute favorites from a variety of brands, and I'm going to sneak in little things here and there as, you know, bonuses, because I cannot help myself and I have to mention them. Both of us have tried to select eyeshadows in our top 10 that you can still purchase, so they're still available, because as you know, with indie companies very often things get discontinued, they're limited edition, that kind of thing. So I tried to select eyeshadows that you can still get your hands on and not stuff that you cannot even buy, because that's stupid. I'm just going to show you each eyeshadow brand by brand and we're going to swatch them together. I am going to make a little side note. I'm going to make all of my swatches of these eyeshadows over Pixie Epoxy from Fyrinnae, which is one of the OG glitter glue types of products that have been around on the market. Mine is already several years old, but it remains one of my favorites in the glitter glue category. The reason I want to swatch these over glitter glue is because I feel like as loose eyeshadows, duochrome eyeshadows, glittery eyeshadows, these have no chance if you do a dry swatch, and that is also not the way I would use them. The fairest way to judge this is by applying them over a glitter base, so I am going to apply these over Pixie Epoxy, just FYI. So the first eyeshadow and first brand I want to talk about is one that's kind of nostalgic for me, because it is Concrete Minerals, and Concrete Minerals was the topic of my very first video on YouTube. If you go back to 2000 and I don't know, 14 or 15 or something like that, you will see that my very first video was my top 10 Concrete Minerals eyeshadows. Concrete Minerals is also one of these companies that you hardly ever hear of, and I don't really know why. They don't have very aggressive PR, and they have like a set of products. They don't really come out with collections very often, which is also one of the reasons maybe that they're not very popular. Either way, they offer a bunch of these beautiful loose eyeshadows that come in these huge jars, and I think the price of these is pretty reasonable. It's like $7 or $8. Most of them are not like super mind-blowing duo multi-foiled chrome types of shadows. They are beautiful colors. They have more like shimmery metallic eyeshadows, and they have a collection of mattes, and their mattes are really good. Some of their brights are exceptional, and I highly recommend checking them out. I will, by the way, have a link to all of these companies in the description box below, so you can go through their catalogs and choose something if you want to, or just select the colors that I'm going to talk about. So my first favorite is Jezebel from Concrete Minerals. And Jezebel is an absolutely beautiful, deep, plummy kind of purple. It looks like this. It doesn't have like a duochrome or something. It does have a little bit of like a blue sheen to it, but mostly it's like a very satiny type of purple. As you guys know, I'm the worst swatcher on YouTube, so don't count on me for absolutely flawless swatches, but this is a swatch of Jezebel, and I think she's absolutely beautiful. It's a very easy formula to work with, and I think that just because they are loose and they're not pressed is why a lot of people would be scared of them. But don't be scared of Jezebel, she's gorgeous. So, random facts about working as a research scientist nowadays. This is how most people, including my friends, think that I look like when I'm at work. No. Very few of us wear these types of suits, because most of us don't even wear a freaking lab coat when we're at the lab. Not for any other reason, but because a lot of us don't really work with the kind of toxic or dangerous materials that would require us to look like this. And if we do wear a lab coat, most of the time it's because we're cold. The next eyeshadow I want to mention is from one of the oldest OG indie makeup brands, and that is Shiro Cosmetics. I personally don't have a very extensive Shiro collection, but I do have quite a bit of their eyeshadows, and this one happens to be my favorite. It has the longest name in the world. It's called 15 Birds in 5 Fir Trees, and it is a very pretty deep green, like a forest green type of shade with a lot of pink sparkles in it. I don't know if you can see the pink sparkles, they are absolutely beautiful. It is definitely one of those eyeshadows that I highly recommend using over a glitter glue, especially a more sticky type of glitter glue such as Pixie Epoxy. By the way, I'm wearing both of these eyeshadows on my eyes today. I have 15 Birds on my lids and then Jezebel in the outer corner and crease, and there will be also a tutorial coming for this look. If you're a collector of indie eyeshadows, then you do know and have heard of Fyrinnae, and of course they are super popular. Pixie Epoxy, which is like the OG glitter base, and the eyeshadow that I have picked from them, it was very difficult to select. It was very difficult to select my favorite from Fyrinnae, because I have quite a lot of Fyrinnae eyeshadows and I really like most of them. But the one that I decided to go for is Debonair, and I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing the name of this eyeshadow right, but Debonair is a beautiful purple lilac with a copper duochrome. And I happen to love everything with a copper duochrome, so I could just not pass on Debonair as my favorite. In fact, this is an eyeshadow that I didn't even order as a part of my regular order. It was added as a gift with purchase. So that's something really cool with these types of companies. You always get a gift with purchase and you get to try something that you didn't really select yourself. And Debonair was one of those eyeshadows that was included for me as a gift with purchase, and I fell in love with it. So this right here is Debonair, and I hope that you're able to pick up a little bit of that beautiful copper shift that this eyeshadow has. Random fact number 2 about working as a life science researcher is we have a very flexible schedule when it comes to working hours. We don't necessarily need to be at work from 9 to 5, although technically speaking those are our working hours, but we very often need to be there earlier, later, we need to be there in the weekend. This is one of the advantages of working as a researcher, that you don't necessarily need to be there at a certain time and nobody really cares if you're there, only if you have meetings that are scheduled around these times, but most of the time nobody really gives a fuck when you show up and when you leave, as long as you do your job. And while a lot of people see that as an advantage, I can tell you there are a lot of disadvantages to that as well, because a lot of the type of work we do requires constant care. For instance, I spoke about stem cells in your face cream recently, and I just wanted to give stem cells as an example because they're a great example. Like one of my colleagues says, cells do not have a watch. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because when you take care of stem cells, for instance, you need to basically do that every day or every other day. So it doesn't matter whether it's holiday, whether it's weekend, or whether it's any sort of other time that you don't want to go to work. You just have to, because otherwise your cells are going to die and you may waste an experiment that you have invested 3 months into. The next company I want to mention is one that I don't really purchase very often from, and I don't really know why. I think I just discovered them a little bit too late, but that is Glamour Doll Eyes. I do have quite a lot of samples and I've received quite a lot of presents from Amber over the years with Glamour Doll eyeshadows, but there is always one that sticks out for me, and that is the original eyeshadow that I fell in love with from Glamour Doll Eyes, and it is called Celestial Crow. I was a little bit afraid that you're not going to be able to find Celestial Crow anymore, but I think you can still find it. Celestial Crow is a gorgeous, like, sky night blue with deep blue shimmer in it. Not shimmer, glitter. It's just straight up glitter. It's so beautiful. And here we have a swatch for Celestial Crow. Celestial Crow is just absolutely stunning. Random fact number 3 about my personal work as a researcher. So my type of work is very dynamic. We do a lot of different types of work on a daily basis. For instance, when it comes to experiments, I work with DNA, proteins, RNA, mammalian cells, bacterial cells. It's always very dynamic, it's always very changing. But aside from the experimental work, we also do a lot of like project management. We supervise students, we have to write papers, we have to give presentations to share our research with our peers. So it's all very dynamic and we're constantly learning and acquiring new skills. A lot of people fail to see how versatile we are just because we are given this label scientist and everyone thinks we just do this. It's not this that we do. It's also one of the reasons why I love working as a researcher so much, because the work is so dynamic and you're constantly moving around and doing new and interesting things, and you're constantly challenged, you constantly have to plan things and execute them, and it's problem solving. We are problem solvers. The next brand I want to mention is My Pretty Zombie, and when I was picking out shadows from My Pretty Zombie I had a really hard time because there are a lot of gorgeous eyeshadows that My Pretty Zombie makes. My Pretty Zombie is owned by the most amazing woman in the world. She is like one of the most wonderful human beings on the planet. She fosters a lot of cats for Snapcats. Snapcats basically rescues and fosters special needs kitties, and the owner of My Pretty Zombie, Andrea, has several of those kitties in her house, and she's amazing. She's so talented. She makes some of the most beautiful eyeshadows. The formula of her eyeshadows is exceptional. And when I was selecting favorites, like I said, I had a very hard time because a lot of her eyeshadows are my favorite. But I kept thinking about one in particular, and that is Weird Dent. And that is my favorite eyeshadow from My Pretty Zombie in her regular line, so you can still find this eyeshadow. And my other favorite from her is unfortunately an eyeshadow that I could not find on the website anymore, because maybe it's only present during certain times of the year or it's been discontinued, I'm not sure, but I am going to swatch it for you because it's one of my favorites and maybe it's going to come back, and it is called Baby May. So my ultimate favorite from My Pretty Zombie is, like I said, Weird Dent. Weird Dent is the most beautiful, glowy, reflective lime green type of color with a little bit of pink reflects to it. It just looks absolutely stunning when you put it on your eyes. And the shadow that unfortunately you cannot purchase anymore, but I guess it may be available in the month of May because it's called Baby May, and I think that's the name of her first daughter, is an absolutely beautiful light blue with a pinkish purplish duochrome. Such a beautiful shadow. Right here is a swatch of Dent, and this is the swatch for Baby May. Aren't they beautiful? These are the 5 eyeshadows with the bonus from My Pretty Zombie that I talked about so far. Concrete Minerals Jezebel, Shiro Cosmetics 15 Birds in 543s, Fyrinnae Debonair, Celestial Crow from Glamour Doll Eyes, and then we have Dent here from My Pretty Zombie. Something a little less known about scientific research, or maybe less known to people very much outside of scientific research. Our experiments sometimes take months to be planned, optimized and executed, and in 90% of the cases they still fail, or they don't fail but they show results which are difficult to interpret, or they are not easy to reproduce. So a lot of the time we deal with disappointment. The eureka moments are very few. We very rarely get to see our theory about the workings of nature actually come to life and coincide with what's happening in reality. Most of the time our results are like, what the fuck does this mean now? So as a researcher you have to deal with a lot of disappointment. So far I showed you 5 companies and 5 eyeshadows from these companies, and now we're going to only talk about 2 more companies because I had to choose multiples from these because they have been my absolute favorite companies over the years, and those are Darling Girl and Notoriously Morbid. For those of you who've been around, you know that I was a promo girl for both of these companies for a really long time. I no longer promote for them, but that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy, love and adore their products. I will forever love Notoriously Morbid and Darling Girl because both of the owners of these companies have been so kind to me, and I have very large collections from both of these companies, so picking out favorites was almost impossible for me to do, and I think it was made slightly easier due to the fact that a lot of my favorites are shades that no longer exist, have been discontinued, or were parts of like some sort of limited edition collections. So let's start with Notoriously Morbid. And the first shadow from Notoriously Morbid that is a shadow from the permanent collection, you can still get that eyeshadow, is Momo. Momo is a beautiful purple-green duochrome. It's just such an absolutely stunning shade. Such a stunning duochrome. Let's see if I can play a bit with the lighting so you can see the duo. Do you see how this shifts from a purple into a very intense green? My next Notoriously Morbid favorite obviously has to be another duochrome, and that is Spring-Heeled Jack. Spring-Heeled Jack has the most intense, like aqua teal duochrome on a, I want to say orangey reddish kind of base. This shadow looks absolutely stunning and vibrant when you put it on your eyes. So this right here is a swatch for Spring-Heeled Jack. Can you see that beautiful, intense, gorgeous shift? Actually, another thing Carrie makes, and I'm going to use that as an opportunity to cheat again, is mattes. Carrie makes the most amazing matte eyeshadows. I have a video that I'm going to link up here for you with my top 10 matte Notoriously Morbid eyeshadows, because I'm not going to include any of those in my top 10, and instead I'm going to cheat and just refer you to this video so that you can see my top 10 from the overall that I own. But generally speaking, you need to check out Notoriously Morbid's matte formula, because I think it's one of the best formulas on the market, period. Not just in the indie world. And the 2 bonus shades I want to show you from Notoriously Morbid are Fight for Beauty, which was part of a collection that was unfortunately discontinued recently. It is a beautiful light blue with very intense pink glitter and sparkles in it. I absolutely love this shade, and I actually bought a backup of it because I can't imagine my life without it. Can you see those beautiful pink glitters? And the second bonus shade from Notoriously Morbid I want to mention is Enticing Elba. And Enticing Elba was part of a Vanishing Cabinet collection, so the subscription service of Notoriously Morbid. So unfortunately that was only available to people who actually got the subscription box, and it was never made available to everybody else. So I think very few people have that shade, unfortunately, because it is just so beautiful. It is the most beautiful cornflower blue with copper sparkles in it, like a very intense copper duochrome. This eyeshadow is so beautiful and I will cherish it forever and ever. I'll show you my bonus favorites, which are Fight for Beauty and Enticing Elba. I hope you can see a little bit of the shift on these shades. They are so beautiful. Random fact number 5, and a little bit of a bummer and maybe something that people are already aware of, but research is not exactly a very well-paid job. It's a very stressful job, you're not very well paid, and it's probably one of the jobs with the least types of job security. Most of us have to deal with a lot of anxiety about our future and what we're going to do once we're finished with our PhDs or postdocs, because unfortunately the market is such that we cannot all become professors in the university and we have to go out and do something else, and we have invested pretty much half of our lives learning how to perform and execute science, and all of a sudden we are faced with the reality that we might not even be able to do science for the rest of our lives. And that is a very difficult cookie to swallow, and it's making a lot of us very, very depressed. And I wish that people who go into biomedical sciences, especially students, are given very early on that kind of reality, and they are told from the very beginning that only 1 to 5% of them will actually make it to the highest echelons of scientific research, where they get to, be principal investigators, start their own groups, get funding and that kind of thing, because yes, funding is what we rely on in order to perform research. We're not given that kind of information, or at least I wasn't when I started my PhD. It was all glorious rainbows and unicorns and I was going to be amazing and win a Nobel Prize. That's not the reality of what research is like, and I wish people would tell students that more often, so that students who are passionate about research can early on make the choice to requalify or get skills that will help them outside of academic research, because academic research is a dead end for a lot of us. 95% to be more precise. If you have any other questions about life as a researcher, then please let me know in the comment section below and I will try to answer. So my camera has decided that it has this new feature where it overheats very quickly, so I went ahead and already swatched all of my Darling Girl favorites and bonus shades, but I am going to first show you the shadows that I have selected. So from Darling Girl I actually selected 3 favorites, because Darling Girl is my oldest indie makeup love. It's also one of the companies that I own the most of, and I think Susan makes beautiful eyeshadows. She makes the most amazing neutrals with a twist to them. She makes the most amazing duochromes, and she always comes up with such innovative new products. I absolutely love everything that I own from Darling Girl, and even if I don't use them on a regular basis, I'm never going to get rid of them. Okay, first eyeshadow I want to show you is Leaping Lizards, and that is an eyeshadow that is also still available, so these 3 are still available. You can purchase them. Leaping Lizards is amazing. It's one of those shadows that you just don't expect the twists that are going to come with this shade. So it has a grey base, and then it shifts teal or purple depending on how the light hits it. It is absolutely amazing. My next favorite from Darling Girl is an eyeshadow that a lot of indie companies do, and every indie company has their own twist to it. I'm talking about the blue, purple, red duochrome, and I think that was originally started by Mephisto from Fyrinnae. I have several of those from different companies, and I have to say that Darling Girl makes my favorite version of that eyeshadow, and that is Blue Flame. Blue Flame is so beautiful, and you can play with it because you can play up either on the red duochrome if you apply a glitter glue, or you can just have both the blue and the red coming through if you apply it only over a eyeshadow base. But this eyeshadow is absolutely stunning. It's like a blurple with a red duochrome. I love this shade so much. And my final favorite is, first of all, an eyeshadow that comes from a collection from Darling Girl that I absolutely adore, and those are the Diamond Dust. So the Diamond Dust have more chunky glitter in them, And this particular eyeshadow holds a very dear place in my heart. It's called A Doctor's Dream. And this is a custom created eyeshadow that Susan made specifically for me upon my request so that I can wear it on the day of my PhD defense. So this is the eyeshadow that I wore when I was defending my thesis 3 years ago. It is a stunning, like silvery purple with green and blue duochrome. It's really pretty, and I know that it's a lot of other people's favorite, so it really makes me happy that other people are enjoying this shadow as much as I did. This one here is Sleeping Lizard. I think you can clearly see both the teal and the purple and the grey base. Amazing. This here is Blue Flame, which, like I said, shifts into either a royal purple kind of shade or more of a red, depending on how you play up the primer that you used. And then the last one here is A Doctor's Dream, which, as you can see, is amazing as well. I highly recommend using the diamond dust over a glitter glue. Don't put them over eyeshadow base only, because you're not going to get the full impact. There's no way I would not mention some bonus shades from Darling Girl. One of them is unfortunately no longer available. I have a backup of it, but I think Susan makes a similar shade from another collection now, and I'm going to try to look up the similar shade in the other collection that is available. But the one that I have, adore, and was unfortunately discontinued is Dirty Limerick. This shadow is stunning. It has like a light chartreuse base and the most amazing bluish purple shift to it. And my second bonus Darling Girl shade is one that is still available. You can find it on the website, and it is part of the Friends collection. And I wanted to mention something from the Friends collection because this collection also holds a very special place in my heart, because it was created in collaboration with yours truly. Susan and I are both huge fans of the Friends show, and we wanted to make a collection based on that. So I selected one of my favorite shades from that collection to show you, and that is Could I Be Wearing Any More Clothes? If you're fans of the show, you of course know what this refers to, but if you don't worry, it's still a beautiful shade. It's like a teal green with green and purple sparkles in it. So these are my two bonus shades. This right here is Dirty Limerick. You can see the intense beauty that is. And this shade over here is Could I Be Wearing Any More Clothes, which is amazing as well. And because I absolutely love showing you swatches of these, let's recap. So this is Momo from Notoriously Morbid. This is Spring-Heeled Jack. Fight for Beauty. This is Enticing Elba. Darling Girl, Leaping Lizards. Blue Flame. A Doctor's Dream. Dirty Limerick. And last but not least, Could I Be Wearing Any More Clothes? So guys, those were my top 10 favorites and sneaks of bonus shades here and there from my favorite indie companies. I really hope you enjoyed this video and all the swatches. I hope I did a good job with the swatches, because I really hope you enjoyed this video that was kind of like swatches interspersed with random facts about working as a biomedical researcher. I'm really curious what Rina is going to select for her top 10, because I think we have different collections. I think she has more Fyrinnae eyeshadows, for instance, than I do, and she has less Notoriously Morbid. So I'm very curious how our top 10s are going to look like. I'm sure they're going to be different, although I feel like we're attracted to the same sort of shades, like the blues, the greens and the purples, so there might be some overlap there. Look at all those pretty eyeshadows though. And then this side and this side. Damn. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much Rina for wanting to do this collab video with me. I will link her video in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!